Hey, I'm PH and welcome to Good Bible Knowledge. In this set of videos, I want to provide an enjoyable and helpful way to understand common questions about the Bible. I hope you'll find these videos helpful for your own spiritual journey in Jesus. Let's get started. In this video, I'd like to take a particular approach, and that is to show how Jesus is the focus of the story of Exodus. The main theme of the book of Exodus is redemption. Now, normally we think of redemption in terms of coupons, but in biblical times, redemption specifically involved the payment of a ransom to free a prisoner of war, or the payment of a penalty to free a criminal. So redemption basically means to acquire someone's freedom through the payment of a price. The story of Exodus is about how God purchased the freedom of his people out of slavery in Egypt. In the last chapter of Genesis, the Pharaoh of Egypt invited Joseph and all of his family to live as honored residents in Egypt. The first chapter of Exodus tells us that after many decades, this family grew exceedingly so that the land of Egypt was filled with them. This led the Egyptians to be fearful of the Israelites, and as a result, the Egyptians put the entire people into slavery and hard labor. And a national effort was made to stop the increase of the Hebrew people to the point where Pharaoh himself ordered that every son born to the Hebrews shall be thrown into the Nile River. During this time, a man and a woman from the tribe of Levi had a son, whom they hid for several months. At the age of 3 months, it became increasingly difficult to keep the baby hidden, and so the child's mother made a fateful decision to put the baby in a basket and give the basket to his sister Miriam to leave among the reeds along the Nile River. As Miriam hid in the distance, the daughter of Pharaoh, who often bathed in the Nile, came upon the basket among the reeds. And upon discovering the Hebrew child, she was moved with great compassion. And Miriam, recognizing God's activity, immediately approached the Pharaoh's daughter and offered to provide a Hebrew caretaker for the child. The Pharaoh's daughter, in response, offered to pay whomever Miriam would choose, and Miriam brought her own mother to take care of the child and raise him. When the child became of age, Miriam's mother brought the child to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. And at that time, the Pharaoh's daughter proclaimed that this child's name would be Moses. And we will see that this is just the beginning of one of the most significant narratives in the entire Bible. So where was God amidst the suffering of his people? God was preparing his people for a great act of redemption. In Egypt, the vulnerable tribe of Israel would live in safety and protection for centuries until they became a people without number. And God did not abandon them, as even the efforts of the great Pharaoh himself could not stop the Israelites from prospering. It is in fact the horrifying edict of the Pharaoh himself that initiated God's great plan of redemption, as Pharaoh would unknowingly bring God's appointed deliverer into his own house under his own personal protection and provision. And in the following chapters of the book of Exodus, we shall see the story of God's providing salvation through a child who would grow up in obscurity, who would become the one through whom God's great power would be demonstrated. And at the right time, God would use this chosen one to bring the powerful of his world to its knees and to redeem an entire nation out of slavery. Moses is ultimately a picture of God's redemption through Jesus. Jesus, God's own Son, would come to earth in the form of a man to die on the cross and demonstrate the power of God through rising from the dead. And like Moses, at the proper time, Jesus will humble the proud of this world and will offer freedom from the bondage of sin to everyone who would accept him by faith. Thanks for listening to another episode of Good Bible Knowledge. We'll see you next time.